main partners of France 24, including Associated Press, projecting another swing state, Wisconsin, going to Donald Trump. And with that, AP projecting that Donald Trump has won the keys to the White House. He will be the 47th president of the USA. Let's first go to talk to our US correspondent. Let's go to Arizona. Let's bring in Wassim Cornet. Wassim, in the last few minutes, another of the key Rust Belt states used to be called the Blue Wall. Well, Blue Wall no more.
Blue Wall no more. I mean, the writing was on the wall throughout this evening, and now you just said it, the Associated Press calling the state of Wisconsin for Donald Trump, calling the presidency for Donald Trump. Not surprising, given the past few hours, given the returns that we've been having, not only in Wisconsin, but also, of course, in Michigan and Pennsylvania. In the state of Arizona, where I am right now, we've had indications that Kamala Harris was struggling from the very beginning. She had a very slight lead in just within the first hour or so, and then very quickly it turned to Donald Trump. We're not expecting any more numbers, any more ballots to come out before daylight Wednesday morning, but not looking good for Kamala Harris, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the state of Arizona called for Donald Trump on Wednesday.
Wow, that is very interesting. So as it stands at the moment, at 270, the magic number of college votes, Donald Trump, after having the 10 projected votes for Wisconsin, is now on 279. So impossible for Kamala Harris on 219 to come back. AP, the major networks in the US also now calling it. So we have a new president, a returned president to the US. Just tell me, when I look at the map, Wassim, when you've travelled in the last few months, the conversations that you've been having and the reasons perhaps you think Donald Trump is the next president.
Oh, wow, that's I mean, it's going to take a while to unpack. Not only, I think I spoke just after Keta Van Gorjestani an hour or two ago, and she mentioned how supporters in Florida were not only happy about his win, but they were happy at the margin of the win. And I think that's really the shocking part. Essentially, up until last night, we were seeing polls saying 50-50. I mean, Nate Silver, who's been a respected pollster, he ran his election simulation model, he said 80,000 times. That was the last time that he ran that model. And I think Kamala Harris won by 40,012 simulations. So 50.0 something percent. So extremely, extremely close. And to have this at the end of the day, this pretty commanding Donald Trump lead in the Electoral College and in the popular vote. That is really the shocking part, is that Kamala Harris will likely become the first Democrat to lose the popular vote since John Kerry. What does that say about the Democratic Party brand? What does that say about their ability to sort of, connect with the people? I was listening to an analyst on American television network here saying also that this, it wasn't necessarily fair, but John Kerry came from Massachusetts. Kamala Harris is a San Francisco Democrat from California. Those are both states, especially California, in the past 5 to 10 years or so, that have a very bad rap in the American psyche. So it's not really a surprise to see Donald Trump's doing really well with the groups that he did well with in 2020 and 2016. It is much more surprising to see him doing very, very well with Latino men, with young men in general. In fact, the only group that he actually made or lost gains with was college-educated women. He made gains with every other social demographic. So very, very surprising to see him doing so well, especially given the past few years, given, the indictments, given the legal issues. But, as I was mentioning earlier, I really do think that when we do talk about this election in the next few years from now, that that assassination attempt in July did help him significantly.
So as of 11:35 here in Paris, as of, I think, 5:35 in the morning in Washington, am I right to say it's 25 to 5 where you are, Wassim? Donald Trump declared to be the next president, the 47th president of the US. Wassim, before you go, and it's kind of relative at this point, but you talk about you're in Maricopa County, about 60% of 4.4 million voters in Arizona live there. It's the biggest, it's one of the largest swing states as well. Talk us through when we might get a result from Arizona. And why it takes so long?
Well, it's going to take a few days I'm sorry, say that again?
And why it takes so long in Arizona? Because there's no unifying system, is there? It's not like the US votes in the same way with machines. Every state has something different in the terms of the way they count.
Yeah, why it takes so long? Well, specifically, it's going to take a little bit longer this time, or it may take a little bit longer, because Arizonans have had to fill an extremely long ballot, 4 pages or 2 pages front and back, with a number of races. Of course, the presidency, Senate races, local races like the mayoral race here in Phoenix. They're asked to choose things like the school board district and members of the water conservation board here in Central Arizona, and also, as I've been mentioning throughout the night, propositions, citizen-driven ballot initiatives on a wide range of issues, abortion, immigration, both the two biggest propositions, but also much more local propositions like whether to continue to levy a transit tax in Maricopa County. So this all takes a long time. It's also why voting by mail is extremely popular in Arizona, because voters are able to receive their ballots days and weeks ahead of the election. It gives them time to do the research, gives them time to make an educated response to those propositions and those races. So that's why it takes some time. Also, there is a new law that came into effect this year, Republican-backed law, that requires election workers to tally the votes at the individual stations, not to tabulate them, so they're not actually looking at how the individual people voted, just a tally to get a final number of how many people voted at each polling station before those ballots are then taken to the central county tabulation facilities. So it all takes a long time. It was a very close race 4 years ago, and yet despite that, Fox News made that controversial call to call Arizona for Joe Biden quite early in the evening. The Associated Press followed suit about 2 hours later, in the late hours of that Tuesday night 4 years ago in Arizona. But even then, even with a very close race and those major calls, it took about 2 weeks to finally count the entirety of those results. 2 years ago in the midterms, in that governor's race, which was very close, the AP didn't make a call until 6 days after Election Day, and we've been warned. We went to several press conferences from the county officials in recent days. When we got to Phoenix, they told us the final results doesn't mean networks or organizations will be able to make a call, but the final results will not be available for a total of 10 to 13 days after Election Day. They have to be officially certified by November 25th. So the county officials and state officials have quite a bit of time to get those numbers straight and have a final tally for the rest of the country to see.
Marching through the early hours. Great to talk to you, Wassim Cornet. So that's Wassim explaining why it might take longer in Arizona, but it is relative now. It is all relative because we have that call present. Trump will be the 47th president of the USA. Well,